Anjak Hawishka. Good morning, Chair Leger Fernández, Ranking Member Obernolte, and distinguished members of the House Subcommittee on Indigenous Peoples of the United States. I am Fawn Sharp, Vice President of the Quinault Indian Nation and President of the National Congress of American Indians. On behalf of NCAI, thank you for this opportunity to provide testimony on H.R. 5549, the Indian Health Service Advance Appropriations Act. Indian country has long supported advance appropriations as a pragmatic solution to the impact of funding disruptions that we've experienced all across the IHS system. IHS regularly faces the possibility of sporadically discontinued services based on the political terrain of Washington, D.C. Recognizing the importance of this issue, the National Congress of American Indians Executive Committee unanimously passed a resolution in support of advance appropriations for IHS in 2019, and the consensus of tribal support has continued since. Further, this administration has put forward advance appropriations and mandatory appropriations for IHS in the president's budget. This represents an historic shift and an opportunity for Congress to restore one of the promises made to our ancestors, the guarantee right to health care. Congress has the power of the purse, and it is time to honor your obligation and promises by providing adequate and appropriate funding for Indian country's healthcare services. Passing H.R. 5549 could not be more timely, as Indian country faces a combination of the ongoing crisis affecting IHS operations as well as service delivery. First, as the Broken Promises report details, and as I've testified to Congress before, the current funding for IHS as discretionary spending represents an investment that is more than 56% less than the national healthcare spending per capita. Just this point alone proves the continued funding crisis facing IHS. The chronic underfunding and funding instability in particular is egregious, as tribal nations have already paid in full for the promise of healthcare through the United States acquisition of land and resources and the establishment of the fiduciary and trust relationship. The United States has charged itself with moral obligations of the highest responsibility and trust. Further increasing the need, the coronavirus pandemic is not over. Funding certainty and stability are critical to saving Native lives as we continue to combat the ongoing effects of COVID-19. As we have seen, COVID-19 disproportionately impacts American Indian and Alaska Native communities due to our underlying health disparities. When Native Americans already face a life expectancy that is 5.5 years less than the national average, advance appropriations for IHS will provide funding certainty and ensure continuity of services in the case of any patient surge due to COVID-19, the flu, as well as any other emergent health need. When public health concerns develop rapidly, it is the stable healthcare services that represent the first line of defense. When we consider the efficacy of our healthcare system and the optimization of federal funds, advance appropriations for IHS are essential to providing for the security of our communities. During the COVID-19 pandemic, Congress has sent historic and long-needed influxes of funding into Indian country, but the economic crisis caused by the pandemic still remains. According to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, Indian country currently faces an unemployment rate more than double the national average. This data reveals that Indian country's labor market would be considered catastrophic if it were representative of the full U.S. economy. Additionally, in many communities across Indian country, healthcare jobs have a significant footprint in tribal economies, particularly in rural areas. When you add in low average household wealth, disruptions in federal funding, this all places Native families in an especially fragile situation. During a shutdown, thousands of IHS employees were furloughed, meaning that many across the country, tribal communities had to struggle to put food on their tables, to pay their bills and their mortgages. The effects of short-term continuing resolutions further the disproportionate harms to IHS patients and the communities they serve. It makes it difficult for IHS to plan, provide care, and protect Indian country when it needs it the most. Advance appropriations for IHS are a simple promise that the United States honors and upholds its treaty and trust obligations, a promise that Congress will enact solutions that cease the generational trauma and undue suffering of Native people, and a promise of certainty and security for Native communities and our most vulnerable populations. As Congress works to restore the promises made, all options must be on the table. We urge Congress to pass H.R. 5549 and secure advance appropriations for IHS. Native lives matter and they can no longer wait. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your testimony. We have been called to vote, and we have 3 more witnesses. Oh, yes, 3 more witnesses. I truly, truly apologize. I want to thank you for your patience. We only have, I believe, 2 votes, so it should not take us longer than 20 minutes if we can all commit to voting and as quickly as possible and heading back. So we will be in recess for 20 minutes and resume our testimony after the votes. Once again, I thank the witnesses for their patience.